Okay guys, so I've dismantled this light. I've removed the best part of it right here. Now, as you can see, it's got two of those instead of one. And it's got little lenses, little reflector caps, the whole ball of wax that I can use for this. The only problem is when I hooked it up to a single battery, it was so bright and got hot so fast and so hot that you couldn't turn it on for 2 seconds and hold your finger on it. It got that hot, and it's incredibly bright. So, for those of you who might not believe me, we're going to take this and look at that. Very, very bright, but I can leave my finger on it while it's on and not burn myself. And I can feel that as I leave that on there, it does get a tiny little bit warm, but it's perfectly manageable. This is perfectly fine. It's not a crazy amount of heat, guys, and I can easily and readily put my finger on it without any trouble at all, guys. This is what you're looking for. You got to check things for heat. Now, I've decided instead of the single light, I'll go for the twin lights that were in my bike light. It's a much, much brighter set of lights than that one was alone. And the trick is, I have played with a lot of resistors for this. See the little guy I've got in there? This is the real trick, guys. Now, take a look at this guy, and you'll note a difference in the little bands on them, okay? So if we pay attention here, we've got a red, what looks like a green, and then a black, and then a silver, and then a red. Here, we have beige, beige, green, red, beige. Totally different, okay? So if we put them side by side, you can see that they are, in fact, different color codes, okay? And those color codes tell you how much resistance this piece makes. So these are slightly different. So I have been experimenting with various resistors, guys. Here's some of the resistors that I have tried. This one actually came really close. This one, it's really, 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 really incredibly bright. But it still gets a little bit warm. Not right away, but when left on, it gets warm. And believe it or not, this has more resistance, this one little tiny resistor, than this big guy that I was using, okay? Don't let the size of a resistor fool you. Just because you have a big one on and it's not working for you doesn't mean you need a bigger one. It may actually mean you need a higher resistance type of resistor. This is actually a very low resistance type of resistor, guys. That's why I wanted it. I wanted the lowest resistance I could get and still do the job. This seems to be that. Any more resistance than this, and it's nowhere near as bright. Now, I did find this one in my box that's similar to it, so I'm going to test that one and see if it works. But as you can see in here, I don't have any of those other tiny little blue ones except for a couple that are over here that are really tiny. Those are half the size of the others. So, this is where you might start to say, look at another circuit board and see if we can find some of the resistors that we want. Because what I need are teeny tiny resistors. Now what you may notice is I've already pretty much pulled them all off this board. So there's not much good there. But somewhere around here, I will have another board that will still have some resistors on it. Like this one. Still has some resistors. Now these are right in between the tiny little ones I have here of this type and the big ones I have of this type. If we pull this small one out, this is bigger, okay? But it's not the size, okay? Now if we take a look at these guys, these are what I was trying to use and found that had not enough resistance. We're not going to want to go with a smaller one of the same type, guys. That won't do the job. So let's see if we can find one. This one will be too much resistance. These will be not enough. So what you need to find is the exact right resistor, guys. And that can be a pain in the butt. This is why I tell you guys, you have to experiment with everything. You absolutely have to experiment, because what we're looking for is resistors. Now these are great for resistors, but I've already got them all off of there. So I've pretty much only got the resistors here in my box to work with, because I've pulled all these off of various circuit boards. I have a ton of them here, guys. So I will continue to experiment with different resistors, but it looks like it's going to be one of these two that are perfect. This one's actually doing just fine. It's not heating up. This may be the exact one that I end up using in the circuit. But as I said, I noticed that the other light was glitchy. And if you look, it's really not nearly as bright as the two of those put together. So instead of one light in this casing, I'm going to have two lights that are very, very bright in and of themselves. And you can see how bright that really is. I mean, if it's not clear to you, it's definitely clear to me. It's blinding. And you get those in your face, and it's definitely blinding, guys. And I mean, it's kind of one of those things, like I'm looking at it and it's blinding. If you look over here, you see the amount of illumination I get out of it. You can see by moving that over to the box, it's a lot brighter than the other setup. And it's not heating up. So that is the requirement, guys. And this is the size. I mean, it's teeny tiny what I'm looking at here, but those are often the best ones. A lot of people swear by these ones, the blue ones, and don't like a lot of these other types that you see here. And I can see why. I tried one of the little glass guys, and it did almost nothing. The glass ones are the old school types, and they're very, very, very low resistance, guys. This is getting to be a long video, so I'm going to cut out, but this is an important experiment. All I've done is experiment with different resistors. Every time I hook it up, I put my finger over the light to see how warm it gets. When I found one that didn't heat up the light, but gives me as much brightness as possible, I've got the right one. Keith out.